Hey guys, Justin here. Welcome to a new season of ARCA guides now on the Maconi Setup Shop channel. So one thing to note here is that I did not make this test session off of the schedule, so the track temp is going to be different than actuality. So make sure that you take into account this track temp. Lower track temp equals faster, higher track temp equals slower, and just relatively figure out where to go from there, but all of the points should be relevant. All right, let's get into the lap. Alright, let's take a look at that. So this is going to be second lap, hot lap. You cannot get enough speed for your first lap. So just kind of crawl your first lap. Don't really push the car too much, but make sure that you have enough speed going into turn 3 to where you can carry the momentum off of 4. So take your out lap easy, take your 1 and 2 kind of easy, a little easy, and then go hard in 3 and 4. So this is 3 and 4 right here. Just going to go full throttle up top for as long as I can. I back off a little bit, kind of wait for the car to turn back down the hill slightly, and then get back to full throttle, and then just drive it straight. Not too difficult. You just have to get that little timing down of going to 75%, waiting for the car to not want to hit the wall, and then going back to full throttle. But other than that, we get a decent amount of speed here. Could have got to throttle a little tiny bit earlier, so just mess around with that, see what you can do. So good speed coming to turn 1 here. So there's 2 lines that you can go for. The first line you can go for is a big arc towards the bottom, and the second line is a slight arc and then just kind of wrapping the bottom of that rubbered in groove right there. So I figured out that I personally like this rubbered in groove a little bit better. By going to the bottom, it's a little easier to get that tight to loose condition if you don't approach it correctly, whereas the car just feels a little bit more in the track if we take this groove right here. So just aim your left sides to be on the very bottom of that groove. I basically drive the car full throttle, and then once I start coming down the hill, I back it off to 80% throttle, and then once my car settles in the groove, I go back to full throttle. So you'll see here that there's a lot of wheel jostling because it's getting a little bit loose. So goal number 1 is to wait for the car to turn down the hill on its own, which it did. And then right there, you can see I'm turning the wheel pretty aggressively. That's pretty far turned to the left for Vegas. So you're saying, I see I'm kind of fighting the car. But you'll see the moment I stop fighting the car is when my throttle goes full throttle. Okay? So if you're still fighting the car on entry, it's probably not time to go full throttle yet. And then the moment that I'm not fighting the car anymore, full throttle. And then from there, it's just going to be loose. So all these little tiny wheel jostles are just me attempting to keep the rears as engaged with the track as possible. The only thing I can describe is you just make tiny micro adjustments just so that your rears don't slide. Because if you slide, you lose momentum. So I'm doing everything that I can to not lose that momentum. And I fail a little bit right in the second here. You'll see right about there. Yeah, you see so I lost a bit of my angle off the corner because I was trying to save the rear from stepping out. So you'll see I had a pretty good angle up until about right there. You see this angle is so much worse than that angle. It might be a little hard to visualize, but right here I'm kind of destined to kind of go like this. Whereas after that loose moment, suddenly I have to kind of go like this, or else I'm going to slide the tires, which is bad. So I lose a little bit of time there, but the number 1 priority is not to slide the rear tires. And that's number 1 priority, and I was able to hold on to that. All right. So we're getting down to turn 3 right here. And again, you have 2 options of the line you want to take. The bottom line might actually be a little bit better in this scenario because the straightaway is shorter coming to the start finish line, but if you set up on the second groove, you're going to have an easier time getting down to the apron and cutting the apron. So it's kind of like a trade-off. I think they're kind of equal. So I once again went for left sides right at the bottom of the groove, sorry. And this corner is a lot looser than 1 and 2. So basically, I'm not even really worried about making the corner. You see, I get off the gas a little bit, but the car gets down to its groove a lot quicker. And then from there on, it's all about keeping my rears engaged. So now when I'm getting out of the throttle right here, that's completely a different reason than why I got out of the throttle in turn 1 and 2. Once again, I said in turn 1 and 2, I got out of the throttle so that my car would get down to the white line on its own or to the groove on its own. And then 3 and 4, I'm actually getting out because I'm starting to feel the rear tires slide a little bit. So you have to do whatever is possible once again to keep the car from sliding the rear tires, and one of those things could just be to breathe the throttle, try to get the car going back in the straight direction, relatively speaking. But again, a lot of wheel jostling, and you might notice something weird. I'm not following the line perfectly from the track. The track kind of has kind of a more standard get off the corner, whereas my line is going to end up being drive it just straight up to the wall, because that is how we keep the rear tires engaged in this scenario. So I'm just like, am I going to hit the wall? Am I going to hit the wall? No. There's a little more room there than you think, and we have to use all that in order to keep the rear tires engaged for the whole corner. And then finally, yes, we do apron cut coming to the checker flag only, not going to the start of your first lap, because it hurts your momentum a little too much for it to work out in the long run. But just coming to the line, go ahead. Go ahead and do that apron cut. It'll save you a 100th or 2. All right, now let's go take a look at the long run. All right, let's take a look at the long run. So I did a bit of a long run test earlier on the super hot track that I accidentally did. It was like 135 degrees. I don't think the race is going to be like that, but we don't know what the race is going to be at for sure. Sometimes it'll be higher than what we think based off of the schedule, and sometimes it'll be lower. And this track is very temperature sensitive in terms of lap times. But what I did find out running that super hot track was that even on that super hot track, the top just never really works. So I'm going to show you guys just the line that I think is going to be good for pretty much the entire race. And surprise, surprise, it's going to be the bottom. So you let off a little early into the corner, and then you just roll on the bottom. Make sure not to turn your wheel too much to the left after entry, and then let your car slide up the track on its own. Don't fight the car at all. And if you are going towards the wall in a way that you think you're going to hit it, that means you probably throttled 100% too early. 3 and 4 is going to be a lot easier to get the car on the right rear. So just let the car get loose and sort of guide the car without bringing the car back to a neutral balance. The longer we get in the run, the more that you have to arc the entry of the corners, but you can really take them pretty shallow in the short run. And this will kind of help out a little bit on the right front tire as long as you time it correctly. If you turn in too late, it'll hurt you. But if you turn in pretty early and kind of stick the car to the bottom and then let the car slide up on its own off the corner, then you get through the corner without using your steering wheel pretty much at all. Like, look how little I'm going to be using the steering wheel, especially in 3 and 4. It's a little tougher to do in 1 and 2. You see I'm turning a little bit more on the corner and then kind of just letting the car slide up on its own and then unloading the wheel, letting it slide up to the wall. But 3 and 4 especially is going to be how you save your tire. Just let off a little early, get to the bottom, get the car loose, and then unload your wheel. And then let the car slide up all the way to the wall. The later we get into the run, we might have to start doing a little bit of trail brake, and then what will happen with that is you just do a little bit of trail brake until your car starts turning down to the bottom on its own, so it doesn't feel like you're forcing it down there. The moment it wants to go down there is when you get back to that partial throttle. So you see how it just does it automatically this early in the run. Later on in the run, when the tires start wearing off a bit, you're gonna not feel that sensation until you drag the brake for just a little bit. So we're going to be falling off a cliff here in terms of lap times, but the line is going to remain the same. We'll do a couple more laps here. I was going to kind of fast forward and show the very end, but as I discovered on the super hot track, there's just no line difference. It's just approach difference. So just a little bit of brake, and then you get back to the throttle. And you just want to keep the car happy on the bottom. You don't want to force it down there, and you don't want to miss it. But one big thing to note is if you do miss the bottom, it is okay to run the second line. It's not ideal, but it's better than forcing the car back to the bottom. So let's say I missed the bottom like that. It is better for me to just drive right here and lose that little bit of time than it is for me to turn the car more to the left and force it down there and use up a ton of tire. So it'll be bad in the short term, but you won't have the negative effects of long term of roasting your tires. Okay, we'll do one more lap here and then check to see what our tire wear is at.
31.312.
So a little bit more of an arc this time, a little bit of a brake drag, back to the throttle, let the car go down on its own, be happy, and then just let the car slide up on its own. Minimal wheel, whoopsie. Well, good thing this is the last lap because I scraped the wall there. That's funny. Okay, we'll just finish off this last corner, get the car loose on purpose. Little wheel input as possible, let the car slide up to the wall. And almost hit it again, but we're okay. Alright, let's go check the tires here.
31.575.
Alright, 96.95, that's exactly where we want it because this is going to wear more right front as the run goes on. It's going to start getting a little bit tight on corner entry, you're going to feel yourself using a little more steering wheel, so you want to save as much of that right front in the early run as possible. Okay? Alright, thank you all for watching. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you all on the track.